Today I will be talking about the book Pomegranate Soup by Marsha Mirian. Just to give you a little quick summary of the book, it's about three sisters from the Middle East, specifically Iran and the Persian influence, moved to a small town in Ireland right outside of Dublin, and they open up a restaurant there and are trying to get intertwined within that small little town. They came from a bad history and bad past experiences in Iran, and they're trying to start over here. So first, let's start with the language preserving identity. Language is a very obvious sign of a different culture. Right off the bat in the book, Dervla notices a different language being spoken in their house. The sisters are connected through the language, and it's something to them that identifies them from others in town. So like I said, language is a very obvious sign. So Dervla, when she wakes up in the morning and she hears a different language outside of her window, she automatically notices that there's new people in town. And also, like I said, the sisters are connected through that language. Since they are the only people there that speak that kind of sets them apart and just builds a relationship with each other, because that is something only they can connect to. Next is dominance. The fact that the sisters have each other helps them to not be completely oppressed and disempowered by the dominant culture. The fact that they make good food that people from the dominant culture enjoy as well. So, like I said, the sisters have each other to help to not be completely oppressed and disempowered. So the fact that they have each other and have company within the new culture helps them to have their sisters to lean on in the times where it's hard to connect with everyone. And the fact that they make good food, the people from the dominant culture actually enjoy their food and come in and eat their food, so that kind of gives them a foot inside of the dominant culture and allows them to not be completely oppressed and disempowered. Because if they had a restaurant that nobody liked, it would just be another reason for the dominant culture to want them out. Next is style. The author talks almost from what seems a personal worldview. When looking into the author, she can relate to the culture, enjoyment of cooking, and the personalities of the sisters. So, doing my own little bit of research on the author, she talked about how she personally loves cooking and how she kind of put different parts of herself into all the different sisters, and how she herself can relate to the Middle Eastern culture, and she once upon a time lived in Ireland. So she can very much connect to a lot of the different things that she wrote about. Some differences. An obvious difference in this book is between the Irish culture and the Persian is the style of food. Also, just in general, the ways of living and styles of doing things. So to go back to the style of food, this is a very obvious difference that we can see between cultures. Every culture has their own style of food, what type of food they like to cook. So this is just definitely something within this book that's kind of highlighted, since the sisters do have their own restaurant. So this is something that the dominant culture really notices right off the bat, is like the smells of the new food and like something that they are not used to at all. So that is right off the bat a major difference between the Persian influence that the girls have in the Irish culture where they're living. And then also, just to go into the general ways of living and styles of doing things, they have their restaurant just styled the way that they have it, and it's noticed in the book that the people realize that this is different from how they usually do things. So enculturation, at first thought, you think that the sisters aren't going to get intertwined with the small little town very easily, but with the talented cooking and high spirits of one of the sisters, they managed to make their way into it. So the younger sister, being very social, kind of helps all of them be more socialized with the people in that culture. And also the fact that their cooking is really good. People from the culture actually go to their restaurant and actually interact with them, versus people not liking their cooking and completely avoiding them. Communication. Some insights I had from this novel about intercultural communication is: one, at first, it can seem intimidating. Second, not being afraid to intertwine yourself is good. And three, it will have its difficulties. So at first, when the girls first moved there, they were faced with just a lot of challenges right off the bat with people looking at them differently and noticing that they weren't from there. But second, not being afraid to intertwine yourself. The youngest of sisters is super good at just pushing through and like socializing with people. So having that fearlessness to just push through helps them a lot. But it will have its difficulties. It proves through and through in the book that with the antagonist and just the different challenges that they face with different cultures, it will be difficult. Some connections that I found through the book is one, marginalization. Just being the odd ones out when they first move makes the girls feel marginalized within the community. Second is culture shock. Coming straight into the new culture, then staying, the girls experience a lot of the signs of what is shown to be through culture shock. Third is connectedness versus individual, kind of what we saw in Hofstede's study. The girls seem to come from a more community-based life versus the more individual in the Ireland kind of culture. Four, language barriers are difficult. So this just shows like even them speaking a different language can almost put up an uncomfortableness between the people in Ireland and them because there's just that unfamiliarity between the two. And fifth is cultural values. Both cultures have their own ways of doing things, and that can cause strife between the two. When you're uncomfortable with something or you're not familiar with it, it can cause just that uncomfortableness between the two of them. Evaluations, general readability. I really liked the book. It was an easy read. Cultural connections. It was a good way to just see the two cultures intertwine and how they could have their difficulties. In course connections, it was pretty easy to find things that were connected with our course and what we have talked about. Thanks for listening, you guys.